The boy could no longer suppress his restless hormones just because he picked up a pair of shorts. Remembering that the goddess was wearing this pair when she was running just now, he couldn't help but turn on all his strength, took a deep breath, and immediately thought of the goddess' graceful figure wearing him during physical education class. This smell immediately made him excited. Are you interested? The boy's name is Xiaoshui. He is usually introverted and taciturn. The goddess Xiaonai has a sweet appearance and excellent grades. She is the focus of all boys' attention. Xiaoshui, like most of his classmates, has long admired her, but due to his cowardly character, he has never dared to confess. But an accident happened that day. On the way home from school, several boys were still enjoying physical education class. One of the boys saw Xiaoshui's thoughts and teased him whether he liked Xiaonai. Xiaoshui was immediately shy and left the scene under the pretext of going back to the classroom to get a book. Later, Xiaoshui accidentally saw a pink bag on the ground which contained a photo of the goddess Xiaonai. He pulled his underwear a few times on the spot, intending to forget about it, but he didn't expect to hear footsteps in the corridor at this time. Xiaoshui was frightened and left the classroom with his clothes. Fortunately, there was no one outside the classroom at this time, and Xiaoshui quickly fled the scene. When he got home, he didn't even have time to eat. He returned to the bedroom panting and took out the gym clothes and put them on the bed again. At this moment, he was full of guilt, but in the end he decided to put the clothes back. However, the next day, as soon as he walked into the classroom, he saw Xiaonai following the teacher to the podium, and Xiaoshui felt something was wrong. Sure enough, Xiaonai's pants were stolen. He told the teacher about it, and his classmates were talking about it. The teacher also said that he would investigate the murderer. Now he didn't even have the chance to turn himself in, but his clothes were still in his school bag, so he rode home desperately after school. He thought he was hiding perfectly, but he didn't expect to be discovered by the eldest sister in the class. The eldest sister, Sister Hua, had been waiting on the side of the road for a long time. She slowly sat on the back seat and said, "Did you receive it? It's the notice, and I brought my phone. You have it now." This Hua sister is well known in the class for her weird personality. She always gets 0 points in every exam and ranks at the bottom. Even if the teacher criticizes her, she doesn't care. The teacher is so angry that he almost wants to hit her, but is scared away by her charming eyes the next second. Her weird personality also makes her have no friends in physical education class. Other students are talking and laughing in groups of 3 or 5, but she stands there alone, isolated and helpless. She can't stand it anymore, so she kicks down the railing. In Sister Hua's eyes, this world is not worth lingering on. It is full of all kinds of dirty desires. Everyone has evil flowers in their hearts, but they dare not show it. She hates such hypocritical people. In order to expose this ugly face, he also found Xiaoshui, and then shamelessly hugged him from behind and told him about stealing Xiaonai's pants. After hearing this, Xiaoshui was so scared that he abandoned his car and fled in panic. He was shot dead on the spot. He ran all the way with his school bag on his back, but he was tripped by a stone on the roadside after running a few steps. Finally, he rolled down the hillside and fell face down on the ground. Before he could come to his senses, Sister Hua had already taken out the gymnastics clothes from his bag. In a panic, Xiaoshui wanted to explain, but Sister Hua said that as long as he was obedient, she would keep this secret forever, otherwise she would make the truth about his stealing clothes public. At this point, Xiaoshui had no choice but to agree. Unexpectedly, Sister Hua's first instruction was to ask him to write down his pants psychology and hand it to him in the form of a short essay, otherwise she would tell the whole class about his behavior. Faced with this strange request, Xiaoshui thought about it for a long time but couldn't write it out. The next day, he had to take out a book and plan to deal with it and express his thoughts. It's all in there, and all the actions are based on the philosophy of this book. Obviously, Sister Hua didn't buy it and pushed Xiaoshui to the ground. As a ruthless person who sees through human nature, what she hates most in her life is those hypocritical villains. She tore off Xiaoshui's shirt, then took out Xiaonai's gymnastics suit and put it on Xiaoshui. In her opinion, the gentle Xiaoshui, like herself, was actually one of the few perverts in the school, and she did this to make Xiaoshui face his own evil. Then, she leaned close to Xiaoshui's ear and began to give him the second instruction. This time, she asked Xiao Shui to put on this body gym suit and confess to Xiao Nai. Xiao Shui had no choice but to agree. Unexpectedly, he met Xiao Nai in the corridor as soon as he came out. So he plucked up the courage to ask her out, but he didn't expect Xiao Nai to agree. Then the two met in the library, and Xiao Nai was deeply attracted by his talent. She didn't know that the clothes she stole were worn by Xiao Shui. When he bent down to choose a book, Xiao Shui's eyes were attracted by his collar. The honest Xiao Shui was stunned at this moment. He pretended to be calm and gentlemanly, not wanting to be the gentleman villain in Sister Hua's mouth. However, Sister Hua's demands became more and more excessive. Not only did she want him to confess his love, but she also asked him to forcefully kiss Xiao Nai, otherwise she would reveal his true identity. Seeing Sister Hua hiding behind a tree and following him, she looked at him expectantly. For a moment, Xiao Shui was at a loss and had to stammer and confess to Xiao Nai. At this time, the shy Xiao Nai turned her head away. I thought she would refuse this request, but she actually agreed to the date. At this time, Xiao Shui couldn't believe that the goddess he had been thinking about actually liked him all the time. But just when they were in love, Sister Hua came to them quickly and poured all the coke in her hand on Xiao Shui, intending to completely tear off his disguise. Before Xiao Nai could react, Xiao Shui was horrified to find that his top had become transparent and he was still wearing the goddess's gymnastic suit. This scene scared him to death, so he ran away without saying hello, and at this time, Sister Hua was standing there. Not far away, he saw that Xiao Shui did not forcefully kiss Xiao Nai as required, so he slapped her directly. But the next second he changed his mind, smiled and asked Xiao Shui to get along well, and said that he would cheer him up. The next day, he quietly came to the two of them, and while Xiao Nai was on the phone, he grabbed Xiao Shui's hand and shouted. Xiao Nai looked at this scene in disbelief. In an instant, she felt like she had been struck by a bolt from the blue, and then left the school sadly. From that day on, Xiao Nai never came to school again. Xiao Shui felt guilty and had to apologize in person, but she didn't expect Xiao Nai to not blame her at all, but held her hand instead. She really wanted to know whether Xiao Shui was sincere to her. In order not to destroy his image in the goddess's mind, Xiao Shui concealed the fact of stealing clothes during the chat. However, the strong sense of guilt made him very uncomfortable. He could only live a real life in front of Sister Hua. He felt that he was not worthy of the goddess' trust. Why now, hit you? Then Xiao Shui knelt on the ground and asked Sister Hua to help him tell the whole truth, telling everyone that he stole Xiao Nai's clothes, so that he could be free. So Sister Hua took him through the school gate, and after entering the classroom, Sister Hua immediately handed him a piece of chalk and asked him to write down what he had done to Xiao Nai and all his thoughts on the blackboard, so that Xiao Nai could see his true face early tomorrow morning. Xiao Shui was completely dumbfounded. He didn't expect that he would play such a big trick this time. His cowardice also made Sister Hua furious. She thought he was like her, a person who didn't care about the eyes of the world, but she didn't expect that he was still exactly the same as before. Sister Hua, who was cowardly and disappointed in the end, didn't want to waste time anymore. Before leaving, she said that she would not have any more requests from her. Unexpectedly, this separation completely activated Xiao Shui. Then he ran to the podium like crazy and wrote down all his sins and all the dirty thoughts in his heart at a very fast speed. Finally, he did not forget to sign, but just after he finished writing, he did not expect that he still could not meet Sister Hua's standards. If he wanted to face the deepest part of his heart, he had to be unreserved. So, Xiao Shui filled up a blackboard like crazy again. Seeing that he was still not satisfied, Xiao Shui was now completely free and actually wrote everything on the ground. But as soon as he raised his head, Sister Hua splashed ink on his face, and the two of them started a new round of madness, splashing ink on the walls of the classroom without reservation, graffitiing wherever they saw, venting all the suppressed emotions in their hearts. While doing all this, Xiao Shui felt an unprecedented joy in his heart, and Sister Hua also had a look of satisfaction on her face, as if she was relieved. After the two were exhausted, they lay on the ground gasping for breath until dawn. They left the campus hand in hand. At this time, there was not much time left for the whole class to arrive, but Xiao Shui was not afraid at all. Instead, he felt much more relaxed. Through the experiences of the past few days, he also found that he had an inexplicable affection for Sister Hua. Then the two went home to sort out their clothes, and soon it was time for class. As soon as he walked into the classroom, the class was indeed crowded with classmates who were watching the fun, but at this time Xiao Shuai suddenly found that the name he wrote on the blackboard was covered by ink. It was obvious that Sister Hua was helping him cover up the truth, but the words on the blackboard had a great impact on Xiao Nai. He thought Xiao Shuai would come to comfort him after seeing it. But he turned a blind eye and eventually left the classroom. Then, he and Sister Hua rode their bicycles out together. Now only with Sister Hua can he truly feel relaxed and free, but just as he was riding his bike, a heavy rain fell from the sky. Helplessly, the two had to take shelter at the entrance of the amusement park. At this moment, the souls of the two seemed to merge into one, and the haziness of the rainy night made the air a little warmer. Looking at Sister Hua, who was soaked all over, Xiao Shuai couldn't help but feel uneasy again. But at this moment, Xiao Nai suddenly appeared in front of the two. She couldn't understand why she was still pestering Sister Hua when she was Xiao Shuai's girlfriend. Xiao Shuai was stunned by the question. Unexpectedly, Sister Hua actually tore open her shirt and told Xiao Nai the truth about her perversion. It was Xiao Shuai who stole the gymnastics uniform and scribbled on the blackboard. Xiao Shuai was wearing Xiao Nai's shorts. But what was unexpected was that after Xiao Nai learned everything, she did not feel disgusted. Instead, she said that this was all Xiao Shuai expressing his love for her. Sister Hua felt uncomfortable after hearing these words. She could not bear it anymore and was ready to leave. Before leaving, she did not forget to mock the hypocritical people. But no one expected that Xiao Shuai rushed up desperately, grabbed Sister Hua's car, knelt on the ground, and begged Sister Hua not to abandon him. After being together for so many days, he realized that what he liked was not the innocent and cute Xiao Nai, but Sister Hua who could step on her. Seeing her rolling on the ground like a bear, Xiao Nai felt that her self-esteem was severely damaged, and she left alone in despair. As for Sister Hua, she was not angry at all. She got into the Mercedes-Benz and drove away in style, leaving Xiao Shuai standing there like a drowned chicken. At the same time, this painful experience will completely change him. In a physical education class not long after, in order to prove himself to Sister Hua, Xiao Shuai stole the underwear of everyone in the class, even Sister Hua's. Xiao Shuai playfully put the underwear on the head of the principal's statue. When everyone was discussing who was the pervert and who was the real murderer, Xiao Shuai felt unprecedented pleasure. After school, he took Sister Hua to his secret base, where all the stolen clothes were hung, with Sister Hua's clothes placed in the most conspicuous seat position. To show his sincerity, Xiao Shuai knelt down and begged Sister Hua to forgive him. Sister Hua sat there, looking like a queen, and then she easily put her legs on Xiao Shuai's shoulders. Seeing Xiao Shuai giving so much for her, Sister Hua was also very happy. Seeing this, Xiao Shuai smiled for the first time in a long time. The two talked and laughed, but they probably didn't notice that Xiao Nai outside the door was listening attentively. Her boyfriend's heart was not with her, which made her feel very uncomfortable. She could never imagine that she, a goddess in the world, could not compare to Sister Hua. What made her even more unacceptable was that everyone's clothes were stolen, except hers. Obviously, she had completely lost her place in Xiao Shuai's heart. So in order to prove her charm, she quietly waited in Xiao Shuai's simple home the next morning. Seeing Xiao Shuai being asked incoherently, Xiao Nai thought she understood everything and laughed. Unexpectedly, she not only didn't care, but also took off her clothes bit by bit, which made Xiao Shuai unable to bear to watch. Then he reached out to press the button again, intending to have a real physical education class with him. Xiao Shuai was so scared that his jaw dropped, but even in the face of the goddess's enthusiasm and initiative, he had no intention of continuing. As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Nai pushed her to the ground. But Xiao Shuai had principles, pushed her away, turned his back, and then said that he only loved Sister Hua and left. Xiao Nai, who was in love, could not accept it at all. Unexpectedly, Xiao Nai burned down the secret base as soon as Xiao Shuai left, trying to destroy everything between her and Sister Hua. Then she came to the two of them as if nothing had happened, and lied to Sister Hua that she and Xiao Shuai had done it, and now she wanted to let Sister Hua taste the taste of it. Seeing her indifferent look, Xiao Nai slapped her in anger. As a campus goddess, she couldn't stand Sister Hua's arrogance. What qualifications does she have to look down on me? At this moment, Sister Hua pushed Xiao Shuai away and hugged her tightly. For Sister Hua, she didn't care about what Xiao Shuai did at all. On the contrary, she looked down on girls like Xiao Nai who seemed innocent but actually had ulterior motives, which made her feel even more disgusted. She didn't deserve to be jealous of someone like Xiao Nai. She taunted him and left. Seeing this, Xiao Shuai followed him decisively, completely ignoring Xiao Nai who was standing there and about to collapse. From that day on, the relationship between the three began to become subtle, until Xiao Shuai accidentally found Sister Hua's diary and suddenly realized that it was full of love for her. It turns out that Sister Hua has always liked him, and perhaps they have a lot in common. Facing the sunset, they talked to each other, and since this world is not worth lingering on, they decided to end it in a different way. So at a fireworks party not long after, Xiao Shuai poured a bucket of laundry detergent on himself, intending to say goodbye to everything in this way. However, just as she was about to light the fire, Sister Hua pushed Xiao Shuai down. In the end, he didn't want Xiao Shuai to get hurt, so he decided to bear it alone. He pulled the trigger, but under the fire, Sister Hua remained calm. Fortunately, Dad arrived at the critical moment. The farce was finally stopped. But after that day, Sister Hua completely disappeared from Xiao Shuai's life. A few years later, Xiao Shuai found a new relationship and unexpectedly met Xiao Nai, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Now she also has a new boyfriend, and she greets Xiao Shuai enthusiastically when she sees him. However, when she learned that Xiao Shuai and Hua Ji were not together, she immediately began to mock him, but it was her words that made Xiao Shuai know where Hua Ji was. Finally, Xiao Shuai met Hua Ji in a restaurant. At this time, she was much more mature. The two looked at each other, smiled at each other, and recalled all the good experiences as if it was just yesterday. Then the three of them came to the beach together, but all three had to follow. Saying goodbye to their past selves, they were greeted by a brand new life. If you like the video, please like and follow me, there will be more exciting things next time.